Good morning and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining in. The title of the session is Unleashing the Power of Generative AI with SAP AI Core. A heartfelt thanks to all the participants who have taken out their time from their busy schedules. And I, along with my host, Raj, promise you an exciting and interesting hour ahead. Let's start with some quick introductions. We are Integritty. We were founded in 2018, headquartered in Calgary. We are a Microsoft and an SAP partner. Last year, we set up our innovation lab where we work on exciting problems and we have built a certain products. Lately, a lot of our focus has been on generative AI and getting it adopted within enterprise. The demo that we'll see today is also a product from our labs.
Hi, to introduce myself,
Yeah.
I'm Raj. So I lead the SAP practice at Integritty. I have around 19 years of experience. More than 15 years is spent in SAP consulting. So I worked for Microsoft, Coast, and other companies. For the past 10 years, I've been working in SAP Cloud Platform, also called as BTP. This is all about me. Over to you, Sumit.
I'm Sumit Guha. Uh, I live in Calgary. I lead the overall pre-sales technology and strategy here at the company. I have about 12 years of experience leading data-led transformation initiatives. Prior to joining Integrity, I spent about a decade with Asian Paints, leading initiatives across analytics, digital transformation, and cybersecurity. Without further ado, let's get straight into the agenda and get started. An overview of generative AI and what it is, and then look at SAP's approach of infusing generative AI in enterprise applications. We'll jump into the demo. And then we'll look at some of the common use cases that enterprises are pursuing and what possibly you can take back and implement in your enterprises. And we'll leave you with the steps to get started. Well, whether we like it or not, generative AI is here to stay. While machine learning and neural networks has been there for decades, right? And it has always shown a lot of promise. But the last 1 year has been really instrumental. It has seen significant growth over the past 1 year with likes of ChatGPT and DALI becoming an application used by a lot of people. It has been a common topic, a dominant topic in all the major world events, including CES or World Economic Forum. And needless to say, the annual events of, say, SAP Sapphire or Dreamforce or Google or Microsoft, generative AI as a topic has dominated them as well. There are a number of reports that talk about the impact it will have over different industries. McKinsey says that 75% of professionals expect disruptive changes over the next 3 years. There are also a lot of fear around the kind of impact it will have on the jobs. Now, IT leaders and companies are cognizant of this, and we see a lot of companies already doing pilots on generative AI. And through this session, we'll try and help to move those pilots to a production stage. Yeah. Here is a quick 101 on generative AI. And we'll use some of these terms during our session. I thought it will be important to kind of set the context there. At the, I'll use a pointer here. The most fundamental thing that we keep hearing are foundation models. What are these foundation models? Foundation models are neural networks that are trained on large volume of data using different techniques, including self-service supervised learning that can be applied to many tasks. What a large language model? Large language model are a subcategory of foundation model that specializes on text, and the text could be a normal dialogue, it could be a computer code. Now, generative AI is a field of AI that can help create a novel output, and this output could be in the form of text, images, sound. or video based on user inputs and what we commonly call them as prompts. Needless to say, a lot of images that you see in this presentation are also created using generative AI. Now, ChatGPT, the world's most popular generative AI application, is built on a large language model created by OpenAI, and it is optimized for a dialogue interface. Now, ChatGPT, the newer version of ChatGPT, is also multimodal, which means that it can not only process text but can also process images, video, and speech. The focus of today's session is will be largely around large language models. A quick intro of how they kind of work, right? So, in a large language model, the objective is always to predict the next word in the sequence, right? For example, if the prompt given to the model is London is in, most likely the response would be either United Kingdom or England. Let's see what it is, right? And this is why, because it has been trained on a lot of data from internet. And in general, when we say London, it is part of England. Having said so, if we give some additional context, right, which is say 2 hours south of Toronto, London is in, right? Now we also have a London here in Canada. And with this additional context, a proper foundation model will respond something like a Ontario, right? And it is in the province of Ontario, right? So, what is so different about LLMs, right? Now, natural language processing has been there for ages now. Let's do a mental exercise and try and build an application to monitor the reviews posted on different social sites to monitor the restaurant's reputation. So, in a traditional approach, what we'll do is we'll take an input A and try and predict output B. So in this case, what we're trying to do is take the reviews as an input and predict the sentiment as the output. How would I go about developing this? The process would start from getting the labeled data, which itself at times becomes a Herculean task. And then I start from scratch start training a neural network basis the data. I fine tune that. And then I finally deploy that on an infrastructure, expose them as an API, and then have it consumed within the front end application. Once I do that, when I give an input, say, the best bubble tea I've ever had, the output would be the sentiment which is positive. Quite cool. But let's look at how would the development change if I do it using a prompt-based development using one of the foundation models. Now, I don't spend time getting labeled data, but what I do is I pass an instruction text in the prompt saying that, okay, I'll give you a review and you need to classify them as a positive or a negative. And here you get the response. So the development time reduces from months to possibly a few days or weeks. Now, what this has done is it has reduced the barrier to develop AI-based application, and hence you see a lot of proliferation of these AI tools in our daily lives. And this will continue to increase. Let's, Raj, would request if you can walk us through what is SAP's take on infusing generative AI in applications.
Definitely, Sumit. So let's see the SAP's approach towards the AI. AI Foundation is one of the microservices which is offered on top of the business technology platform, which is a platform as a service from SAP's offering. What this foundation has done is it has opened up a channel in order to communicate with the AI ecosystem outside the SAP world. Those AI ecosystem could be Cohere, uh, Amazon, Anthropic, and so on. At the same time, what SAP is also currently developing or has developed certain products on top of their existing ERP solutions. For example, a Joule has been introduced on top of SuccessFactor, and so is the case with CRM, spend management, and it is going to guide some of the developers on the business technology platform as well. So the direction of SAP is very clear in towards the AI and the capabilities which they are going to come up in the near future.
So let's look at an example as to how do we apply it in an enterprise scenario. Now, we came across these interesting stats, right? Now, whenever we opened a new job posting, we used to get hundreds of applicants, and it became very, very cumbersome for us to even select who do we go ahead and interview, right? And we realized that, the stats say that it takes about 85 applicants to hire one successful candidate. But we were even surprised that, a recruiter spends only 7.4 seconds to screen a resume, right? No wonder, we're not sure if the right candidates are even being shortlisted. There's a heavy dependency on so-called application tracking systems, but they are flawed. Now, if you do a quick search on YouTube, you'll see hundred, if not thousand, of videos on how to optimize your resume for ATS so that you get shortlisted. It's not good enough that you have the skills, but it's also important to format your resume in a certain manner so that ATS picks it up. Now, the problems with ATSs are that they demand a certain format, there's overemphasis on keywords. Often times when the format do not align, it completely omits the information. It does not fully integrate well with a lot of HR solutions. And over a period of time, there are risks of algorithmic overfiltering or bias getting creeping in. On the flip side, given the number of applications, it also becomes very tenuous for HRs to give equal importance to all the applications, right? The first few will get more importance, and then if a good candidate is applied towards the end, maybe there are chances that he gets missed out. A lot of time when a HR is recruiting for a highly technical role, he or she may not fully understand the nuance of what's written in the resume and ends up looking at those certain keywords, absence of which disqualifies the resume by default. Obviously, HR as a function has always operated with limited resources, and people do have biases, right? They have, basis their past experience, they would give preference to a certain kind of candidates over others. In order to solve this, we created this application called Smart Hire. It's a generative AI powered recruitment screening right within SuccessFactors. So let's get into the demo. So I know, Raj, you are recruiting for a few roles. Why don't you show how you would use this application?
Yeah, definitely, Sumit. Uh, so, as a technical manager, I log into the Integrity's work zone application. So, you could see the application is loaded on the work zone. And in the application, I could see multiple BTP applications deployed on the cloud platform, Cloud Foundry runtime. And as a recruiter, I choose to log into the Smart Hire application, which is powered by the LLM. So once I log into the application, I can see the list of open job requisitions coming from SuccessFactor and the required job descriptions. The need of the hour as a recruiter is to hire a senior SAP ABAP developer. So let me quickly view the job descriptions and the roles and responsibilities. So in the JD, I could clearly see the requirement. I want to hire an 8+ years of hands-on experience in ABAP development, strong knowledge of native and SQL procedure, and I expect the candidate to have a strong functional knowledge across FI, PM, and HR, and he should be having a strong debugging skills as well. So let me see who are the candidates who have applied for this requisition by navigating into the details section. Oh, that's surprising. The application has already started the candidates with the required scoring, and it has ranked all the candidates based upon the JD, and it has read through the complete profile of the candidates, and it has given the justification of why it has ranked the candidates based on their profile. So in this case, I see Matthew Garcia is a guy where I can straight away go and then schedule an interview. And I'll be excited if Smith, can you explain how it has determined the rankings or predicted the score?
Absolutely, Raj. So we all know, right? Large language models are fairly good in processing large volume of text, but interestingly, we also see a lot of quantitative numbers here. So we have used basic capabilities of LLM, which is summarization and reasoning to kind of get here. And let me walk you through the process. So we had resumes of all three candidates, and we processed them and gave them a percentile based score here. So which here it means that Matthew is relatively far, far better than the other candidate purely basis the content in his resume. If you see, according to the description, it has also summarized the profile contextual to what is needed, right? Now, the job description required a certain number of years of experience. It required knowledge of implementing OSS nodes and debugging ABAP code and certain functional knowledge as well, right? Let's get into a little detail and see what's happening in the background. So while we have an aggregated summary at the top, the overall criteria is divided into certain parameters. And in this case, it is divided into achievement, certification, communication, education, and so on and so forth. Each of this have a certain weightage, totaling up to 100%. And these are individual scores that are assigned basis the information in the resume for each of these candidates. Let me get a level deeper and understand what's really happening. So let me start with, say, Matthew. And I see that there are a number of evaluation statements that are derived basis the job description. So, for example, strong troubleshooting skills, a certain number of years of experience, so on and so forth. And then the model is evaluating the candidate basis these statements. And the result could be either yes or no, and accordingly, a score is assigned. It also gives a reason as to why that score has been assigned. Let's look at another example of, say, Aisha. Now, the statement says that 8+ years of hands-on experience, and the evaluation statement result is yes. She gets a score of 10 out of 10 because she completely meets the job requirement, right? And it found that she mentioned about having experience starting December 2015 as explicit analysis. But let's look at something more interesting, right? We have also want somebody with strong troubleshooting skills. Now, it still says yes and gives a score of 8, but she didn't write it as is, right? So what she has written is uh, things that she has handled production issues, she has handled incidents and service requests, which implicitly means that she has a strong troubleshooting skills. So if you see, the candidate need not explicitly mention all the keywords in her resume, but if something can be derived, the model does so and assigns a score. And in total, we get a summary of scores across all these parameters. What if I don't like the weightage? Can I change the weightage and rerun the model? Of course I can, right? So I can go ahead and change the configuration and say for that matter, for me, a good to have is not so much of important, but I am giving more weightage to experience years. Maybe I'll do that. I can save it and rerun it. Raj, I know that you're also looking for an ETL engineer. Would you want me to see who all have applied?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah. Oh, I see two candidates, Rahul and Vijay, who have applied, but the model has not yet evaluated them. Let me go ahead and execute it. So what this is doing is it's triggering a API to AI core, and this would trigger a job in the background, which in turn will update this core. While this course, the job is running, let me walk you through how it is working in the background. So what we just looked at was an application, Smart Hire, and it improve in our initial assessment, it improves the resume screening time by up to 85%. We saw contextual evaluation, right? So while on one side it understands the job requirements, generates the evaluation statement, reasons it, and then gives appropriate score to the candidate. It not only derives explicit insights but also implicit insights to assess the overall candidate fitment. A recruiter or hiring manager can go ahead and customize the criteria, and it uses all the capabilities of LLM to either reason or summarize the content relevant for what the recruiter is looking for. Now, this is what's happening in the background. We have used LangChain, a framework for developing LLM application, and our model is hosted on AWS. And we are in this case we are using a foundation model from a company called Anthropic, and the name of the model is Cloud. Now, the way the application is developed is we could go ahead and choose a different foundation model as well. We use Bedrock to integrate it within the LangChain, but then there are two agents or two objects of large language model that are working in parallel. First, that is able to analyze the job description, and the second, basis the input that it gets from the first LLM object, the second LLM object will go ahead and analyze those resumes. So we have a background job that loads the data of the job description and the resume into an S3 bucket. The moment I trigger a job, the first object kicks in and starts analyzing the job description and generates a list of evaluation statements as we saw. Subsequently, for each candidate, the second object goes ahead and analyzes whether the candidate is a good fitment to that evaluation. And then you get the final evaluation and we summarize and we present it on the screen. Raj, why don't you go ahead and explain how have we deployed it on AI Core?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Let me share my screen. Let me know once you are able to see my screen. Perfect. Okay. So as I mentioned before, Generative AI Hub is one of the microservice or the offerings on top of the business technology platform. So it has mainly two important components: the AI Launchpad and the SAP AI Core. Let's focus heavily on the SAP AI Core. As I mentioned before, SAP has opened up the channel in order to reach out to the external AI providers like Anthropic, Cohere, or AWS, and so on. And they do not stop only with the external access to these LLM models. It the foundation can let you to bring your own LLM as well, and then get connected to this framework. At the same time, SAP also building their own foundation models. So that's going to be a very interesting news when they come to the market, as they are working on their own models. So coming to the AI Launchpad, right? It provides a tool set for the developers to play around with the prompts. It gives the option to perform the prompt engineering, playground to access these APIs, and they provide certain libraries and SDKs developed by SAP in-house that provides a variety of access to the foundation models. On top of all this, an interesting fact is that They are working already on the vector engine as well as the embeddings that is going to be heavily used in the retrieval augmented generations. Let me get into the next part. And this is the deployment architecture we have used. So BTP as a center or heart of the entire flow. The CAP application is deployed on top of the BTP Cloud Foundry runtime. So what it does basically is the CAP application, which is exposed to the end user, will communicate to the AI core with the help of middleware, which is developed using the Node.js. And this particular AI core, with the capability of maintaining the workload, communicates with the external LLM models. And as Sumit mentioned, we are reaching out to the external LLM models and then getting the response back within the AI core. And this particular response is then sent back to this cloud application programming model, which has then been exposed to this user. This is the deployment architecture we have used. And if I have to speak about the AI core elements at a very high level, so it has important components like repository manager, where the actual AI workflow pipeline will be placed, and it has the AWS S3 storage as well, which will take care of moving the artifacts back and forth. And it has the integration with the Docker registry, which will take care of running this Docker images, which will then make an API call to the external LLMs, and then response will be then sent back to this AI core. I'm not getting so much into the details because the AI core topic itself requires complete an hour session.
So, Raj, why don't we get into the system and show how it kind of works?
Yeah, definitely. Sumit. So let's go back to the requisition which you have run, Sumit. So I could see from the AI Launchpad, like it has started processing the requisition ID 009, and it started profiling all the candidates who have applied against this requisition. And apart from this, you could see a lot of features on the AI Core Launchpad. As I mentioned before, each component has its own significance and takes lot of time in explaining each and every component. Hence, I just want to directly get into the deployment part of what we have executed just minutes before. So, with the help of this deployment log, you can periodically monitor what are the artifacts being pushed to the S3, and you could see the particular JD is being processed, and this artifacts being pushed to the S3. Now it is getting into the profiles of a candidate, and each profile is compared against the JD, and it is predicting the score. Still, it is in the process of evaluating the profiles. What we have done is, at the same time, we are also writing this logs to the AWS CloudWatch in order to have the extra information in case of the developer or the administrator want to know what is happening behind the scenes. So you could see each and every process of the LLM is being captured in here. As you could see, like we have executed the profile around 9:15. So it has started profiling these candidates, picked up the requisition ID, and these are all the couple of candidates where the ranking has to be done. So it has finished processing one particular candidate. It has moved on to the next candidate, which is Rahul Khanna.
Sure.
So
So Raj,
it
let's go ahead and let's jump to the PPT while the model still runs in the background.
Sure, Sumit.
So let's look at some of the other use cases of generative AI and how can enterprises go ahead and embed it within their landscape. Now, we spoke at the beginning that almost all functions will have a significant impact of the large language models. But as per this report from McKinsey, certain functions will have more impact than others. So clearly, sales, marketing, or say software engineering, product development, customer operation, these are the departments that would represent up to 75% of the total economic impact. While there will be use cases in other functions as well. Now, some of the capabilities that are there, which can be clubbed together. Raj, if you can go back on the previous slide. So, the capabilities that are there that could be clubbed together to create a use case. And the capabilities clearly are chatbots and virtual assistants that we've been very used to now. Code generation. Say, for example, if you have to move from, say, C to a JavaScript or a Java for that matter, this can help you do that. GitHub Copilot is already very, very popular. Sentiment analysis, we looked at the example of uh, a, a sample application earlier in the presentation. Text classification and clustering, language translation, summarizing and paraphrasing, content generation, document extraction, and agents for and automation. Right? Let's look at one or few examples as to how all of this kind of come together. Now, personalization has been a key to all marketing initiative for a very long time, right? But with this generative AI and LLMs, we can have personalization at a scale like never before. And we can make every interaction truly, truly personal, right? Now, we can craft individual experiences for user. Imagine that your bank statement comes with a recommendation highly personalized for yourself. We can scale this to n number of users without losing that personal touch. It can save time, and you need not create an army of people or the front agents to manage this. Now, where this can be applied, clearly in customer service, marketing, all the emailers that we send out, or for that matter, even content recommendation. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's go ahead.
Go ahead, Sumit.
So SAP has been very vocal about the service called document information extraction. And this is one of the earlier generative AI services that SAP has launched. And they've already integrated within their product SAP Transport Management. Raj, you want to explain?
Yeah. So this is the most recent offerings from SAP as an AI embedded capability within the SAP Transport Management application. So it performs the automated checks with a greater accuracy with the minimized errors, significantly reduces hours spent on the manual checks and the waiting times, and it improves the operational efficiency and saves a lot of time. Let's move on to the uh, other slide. So this is the comprehensive service offerings from SAP on the AI bit. So what you see on the green icons is the AI capabilities which are offered on top of certain models. You could see like a product documentation search is provided on the digital uh, assistant, and good receipt processing is done on provided on top of the transport management, and job description and interview question generation is offered on top of the success factor solution, and so as with CRM, Ariba, as well as the S4 solutions.
So Raj, let's go back to the application that we had ran and let's see what has the model done with the two candidates.
Exactly. So let me just go to my application and see the log in first place within the AI core. I could see it has successfully uploaded all the artifacts that includes a score weightage, the candidates being collated, summary is provided, and the evaluation table is constructed. And it should be the same case in the AWS CloudWatch as well. Yes, so it has successfully uploaded to the S3 bucket. And let me see, as a hiring manager, whether the application is smart enough to find the right candidates against this particular requisition. Oh, that's wonderful. So, without even getting into the profiles of the candidate, just with the weightage, it has got me the ranking for the candidates. I can get into the details of how it has predicted and how the weightage has been distributed to both the candidates. From the bottom of the screen, I could see the evaluation results. And further, if I want to get into the detailed evaluation to see how it has predicted the score, yes, I could see very good reasoning against each profile. Let me just pick Vijay Kumar because it has ranked first, and how it has derived the implicit metric. So the evaluation statement is expecting the experience with shell scripting. So how it had the resume mentions he has worked with Linux, which indirectly implies he has an experience with shell scripting. That's wonderful. So, Sumit, I have decided to interview this candidate, Vijay, based upon the result produced by LLM models with the highest score of 95. Thank you so much. It has reduced my work a lot.
Wonderful, Raj. Yeah, and all the best for the interview.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead. So we went through the whole process of, creating an application infused with LLM. Now let's look at what it takes to put it all together. Yeah. So, like any machine learning model, you will start with collecting a lot of data. You tokenize the data, or in some sense, you prepare the data, create the relevant embeddings, and then you go ahead and train the neural network, right? And you'll use different mechanisms that are there. Transformer and attention mechanism is one of them. And then you fine tune the model. Say, for example, if you were to apply this model to a specific scenario, say a legal document review, you will fine tune to that data set, and then you create an end application. Say something like, what you're used to using, integrate it with the front end, and do further optimization using me- techniques like RAG. But wait, isn't this how a typical machine learning model development life cycle is? What's the difference? The difference here is the quantum of data required to train this model is really, really significant. Raj, if you move to the next two screens. Yep. So if you look at, say, ChatGPT, the third version of it was trained on 45 terabyte of text data. It is also predicted that the next generation of large language model will cost more than 1 billion just to train. It takes months of exercise to build that model, and imagine you've put it for training, and at the end of 3 months, you realize that something went wrong and you have to start all over again. So it's not very practical for most companies to kind of create their own large language models. So what should enterprises do? Use pre-trained models. We spoke of a certain few pre-trained models in the presentation. A number of them are available for commercial use. OpenAI being the most popular one, but you also have products from Meta, which is Llama 2, Mistral. Google has also launched its Palm model. On the other side, there are also number of open large language model, and Hugging Face is a very good repository to view those large language model. And you should use it, especially if you want to completely understand the underlying data set that it is used for training. The other important factor is you should pick a model specific to the use case. For example, the scenario that I had used about a sentiment review, I don't really need a very heavy and complex model. I possibly could work with a model which has just 1 billion parameters. But on the other side, if I were to use this model for some complex exercise, say something like we did with resume, right? Where it is we are expecting the model to reason. I would use a large model with say billions of parameters, right? Say 100 billion in this case. Once I take this model, I'll go ahead and prompt tune the model. That should be the first approach. If not, then fine tune it. Fine tune would essentially mean changing the weight of the underlying neural network to make it more relevant for the use case. While prompt tune is manipulating the output basis the instruction that you provide. Once I do that, I can then choose, go ahead and deploy this. Now, we felt that for enterprises, AI Core gives a very good platform to deploy these models and integrate it with SAP applications. Yeah, Raj, move on. But while it is all good, there are certain pitfalls we should look out while implementing large language model. First and foremost, there are knowledge cutoffs. So when I train the model, that marks the end of all the information that it has. Anything beyond that needs to be supplied as a context to the model, and that also is limited. So you have a limited window to provide the context and a limited window of getting the output. While there's a lot of research happening and this limits are increasing. The other and most important thing, most crucial factor is that these are such intelligent algorithms very difficult to bifurcate if they are saying the truth or they are faking it up, and what is commonly known as hallucination. There was an interesting case a few months back where a lawyer used ChatGPT to present its argument in the court, and it turned out all the examples were made up by the model, right? So even a lawyer could not bifurcate between what's real and what's being hallucinated. Generative AI also typically does not work very well with structured data. Right? And there is still a large play for traditional AI models for these tasks, especially for something like forecasting, so on and so forth, right? A model is as good as the underlying data it is trained on. So if that underlying data has a lot of bias, the output will have so. Also, enterprises are being very careful, but all these foundation models are many times public models, and whatever we type in there is being collated as part of their overall corpus. So it's susceptible to data leakage, and hence very important as to which model we use and how do we deploy it. And lastly, as a uh, as it requires a lot of data to train, most of these companies have scraped data from public sources, say news magazines and news websites, Wikipedia, so on and so forth, right? And a lot of them are now in some sort of a legal soup where of violating some copyright law or other. And as a company, you don't want to be at the recipient side of such claims. Right? With that being said, Raj, if you move on, what would it take to start an LLM project? First and foremost, define the use case. Understand what LLMs can do and cannot do, and accordingly choose a use case. Typically, a use case that involves a large volume of data generally fares well. Try and leverage pre-trained models. In this case, we used Claude or Mistral for operational efficiency, at least to begin with. Then move on to assessing what capabilities do we have internally. Do we have the capability of deploying AI model, and managing the life cycle. To begin with, it's always a good idea to partner with a specialized firm for bridging the skill gap while you develop the skills internally. Moving on, choose the right hosting architecture. Select an architecture that can balance both cost and complexity. Moving on, choose the overall cost of the project. Many a times we get into this deployment without realizing what it takes to even develop, deploy, and sustain such models, right? So the ROI has to be positive. Account for training, data management, and important to identify the right data owners, and that's true for other ML projects as well. And finally, kick off the project. Start with a small pilot, but don't leave it there. Take it to the production. Always try with a foundation model before taking the step to fine tune or develop a new LLM on your own. Right? The next slide. Yeah, and we are always there to help in case you need any uh, assistance throughout this journey of LLM adoption.
And on top of AI Core as well.
Yes, and that brings us brings us to the end of the session. Okay, so I hope you found the session interesting, and we'll hope to connect back with you all again. Thank you and have fun infusing LLMs to your enterprise applications. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks everyone. A lot of future innovations are also in our pipeline. So we will keep you posted. Do let us know if in case of any clarifications or doubt in terms of your deployments. Thank you so much for your time.